2 months had passed since the wedding that changed everything. The kettle whistled gently in Sarah's modest kitchen, breaking the stillness of the early morning. Her small apartment, perched on a quiet street near the coast, was a far cry from the bustling city life she had left behind. The walls were mostly bare, save for a faded photograph of her and her mother smiling, taken years ago when things were simpler, when hope had still felt abundant. Sarah stood by the window, watching seagulls drift lazily over the restless ocean waves. The salty air filled her lungs, but it couldn't wash away the heaviness clinging to her chest. She felt like a ghost trapped between two worlds, one she'd left behind in chaos, and this new one where silence reigned. A soft cough pulled her from her thoughts. Her mother sat at the small kitchen table, wrapped in a thin shawl despite the morning warmth. The lines of illness etched deep into her face, but her eyes remained sharp, holding the same fierce love that had kept Sarah going through the darkest nights. "Sarah," her mother said quietly, her voice a fragile thread, "this new life of ours, it's hard to believe sometimes." Sarah turned, forcing a smile she didn't quite feel. "I'm glad we made it here," she replied softly. "The doctors say your new treatment is working. We're finally on the right path." Her mother's eyes searched her face, reading between the lines. "And the rest? The bills paid, the new place, this all came from somewhere." Sarah hesitated, fingers curling tightly around the edge of the counter. The truth was a bitter pill she wasn't ready to swallow out loud. "I had help," she said finally, her voice low. "Someone who understood what we were going through." Her mother sighed, a mixture of relief and worry threading through the sound. "You always told me to be careful of gifts that come too easily. I hope you remember that." Sarah laughed softly, a brittle sound. "I ignored my own advice." A silence settled between them, filled with things unsaid. Then her mother reached out, her trembling hand finding Sarah's. "No matter what," she whispered, "promise me you won't lose yourself trying to fix everything." Sarah looked down, eyes shimmering with tears she refused to shed. "I'm trying," she promised. "I just needed to get away, from all of it. From her, from the wedding, from the lies." Her mother nodded slowly, her gaze steady. "Sometimes running is survival. But you can't outrun who you are." Sarah squeezed her hand, feeling the fragile warmth beneath the cold weight of guilt. Meanwhile, across the city, Ben sat alone in his dimly lit apartment, the silence pressing in like a physical weight. The only light came from the glow of his phone, which buzzed endlessly with notifications, messages, calls, social media alerts. But he didn't have the strength to respond. Not yet. His mind was a storm of confusion and pain. The wedding, which should have been the start of something beautiful, had ended in chaos. The shock of Sarah's kiss, the woman who was supposed to be Emily's closest friend, felt like a betrayal he couldn't comprehend. The rumors had already begun, spreading like wildfire. Affair rumors, scandal at the altar, headlines screamed. Friends and strangers alike sent him messages filled with questions and accusations. He ran a hand through his hair, trying to make sense of it all. How could something so personal be torn apart in front of everyone? How could Sarah, someone he barely understood, do this to Emily, to him, to their futures? His gaze drifted to a framed photo on the shelf, Emily, radiant and hopeful, smiling on what was supposed to be their happiest day. That smile haunted him now, replaced in his memory by the hurt and disbelief he'd seen in her eyes. Ben's phone buzzed again, this time a message from a private investigator he'd hired. No leads on Sarah. No trace. It was like she had vanished into thin air. His jaw clenched. He wasn't going to give up. Not now. Not when so much was at stake. Determined, he stood and paced the room, mind racing through every conversation, every interaction with Sarah and Emily. There had to be a reason behind her actions. A secret he didn't yet know. He knew one thing for sure, finding Sarah was the only way to unravel the mess. She was the key. Without answers from her, the rumors would never stop, and Emily's trust would never be restored. The next day, Ben found himself standing before the iron gates of the James estate, a sprawling monument to power and control. The cold guard at the entrance barely acknowledged him, but his voice was clipped and clear. "Mr. Ben, Mr. James is expecting you." Ben's heart pounded as the gates creaked open. What awaited him inside was a battle he hadn't prepared for. In the grand study, Mr. James sat like a king surveying his domain, a tumbler of scotch in one hand, eyes gleaming with cold satisfaction. "Sit," Mr. James commanded, his tone dismissive. Ben stayed standing, feeling the weight of years of silent judgment. "Where's Emily?" Ben asked, voice steady but laced with frustration. Mr. James sipped his drink slowly. "She's starting over. Far from the embarrassment you caused." Ben's fists clenched. "You never wanted us to be happy. You interfered from the start." A cruel smile played at Mr. James's lips. "Because I know what you are." Ben's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" Mr. James rose, walking to the large window overlooking the estate. "I know your kind charmers with secrets. I knew you'd bring trouble. I just didn't expect Sarah to hold the match." Ben swallowed hard. The name hung heavy in the room. He turned away, the crushing realization settling in. He had lost Emily. Sarah had disappeared. And the man who orchestrated it all sat smugly in his fortress of lies. Emily sat quietly by the window of her childhood bedroom, the soft morning light filtering through sheer curtains and casting delicate patterns on the pale walls. The room was unfamiliar yet strangely comforting, a sanctuary far from the chaos she had fled. The lavender and hydrangeas bloomed in the garden outside, their scent faint but calming. Her suitcase lay open on the bed, half-packed with clothes for a new life in Paris. Designer dresses, travel essentials, reminders of the life she was leaving behind, folded away silently. Her eyes were swollen and red, drained of tears that had long since run dry. The heartbreak was a hollow ache now, one that no longer summoned sobs but settled deep in her bones. Her father's footsteps echoed softly in the hallway before he appeared in the doorway. His face was lined with concern and something gentler, pride, perhaps. "Paris will give you the space you need," he said quietly. "Time to heal." Emily nodded, voice brittle. "I have to find myself again, away from everything." Mr. James crossed the room and placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "You deserve better than the lies and betrayals you endured." She looked away, biting her lip. "I wanted love," she whispered, "not this." Her father's eyes softened. "You will find it. But first, you must reclaim your life." He paused, then added carefully, "If they come looking for you, let them find nothing but your strength and success." Emily swallowed hard, a flicker of determination breaking through the sadness. She zipped her suitcase closed and stood tall. No longer a victim of circumstance, she was ready to face the future on her own terms. Sarah paused before the grand mahogany door of Mr. James's office, the intricate carvings gleaming under the soft glow of crystal chandeliers. The thick Persian rug beneath her feet muted the sound of her footsteps, but the pounding in her chest was unmistakable. This was his domain, a sanctuary of opulence where power and influence reigned supreme. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked sprawling manicured gardens and a private helipad beyond. The leather-bound books lining the shelves whispered of fortunes made and secrets kept. She had never felt smaller than in this room, yet something fierce flared inside her. The desperate need for answers outweighed every ounce of fear. Before she could knock, the door swung open. Mr. James stood framed by the doorway, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit of deep navy, a gold watch gleaming on his wrist. His piercing eyes, cold and calculating, fixed on her. "What are you doing here?" His voice was calm but laced with menace, an unspoken warning. "I need answers," Sarah said, steady despite the weight of his gaze. He stepped aside, motioning with a faint smile toward the lavish interior. "Enter, then. But be warned, this is my world." The office was a throne room of wealth, a massive desk of polished ebony, crystal decanters filled with rare whiskey, and priceless art adorning the walls. Sarah's voice didn't waver. "If you try to push me away, I'll call Emily. I'll expose everything you want hidden." A shadow crossed Mr. James's face before he recovered, nodding slowly. "Very well. What do you want?" "A job." His eyes gleamed as he appraised her. "Show me you deserve it." With quiet confidence, Sarah handed over her credentials. After a moment, he gave a curt nod. "You're hired as my secretary." He believed her powerless in his empire. But Sarah had come to claim the truth hidden behind the glitter and gold, and she was ready to fight. The office was silent now, the echoes of the day fading into the dim glow of the late evening. The towering city lights outside cast fractured reflections on the polished surfaces, but inside, the weight of secrecy hung heavy like a storm cloud ready to break. Sarah sat alone at Mr. James's massive ebony desk, the papers spread before her like pieces of a fractured puzzle. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for the next folder, a thick file stamped with a red seal, marked confidential. She unfolded the brittle pages carefully, eyes scanning the faded print, her breath catching as the story unfolded. Years ago, long before Emily's wedding had been planned, before any of the chaos began, a quiet tragedy had been buried deep within these files. Mr. James had not only built his empire on wealth but on a foundation of lies and cruelty. She read how, as the trusted business manager to Ben's father, Mr. James had been privy to the young boy's fragile health. Ben had depended on vital medication to survive. But greed had poisoned that trust. The files revealed how Mr. James had secretly tampered with the medication, replacing it with a dangerous substitute meant to end the boy's life quietly so he could seize control of the family fortune. The depth of betrayal was suffocating. The doctor's notes detailed the near-fatal consequences, the frantic hospital stays, the miracles that saved Ben time and again. But the damage lingered, unseen by most, scarring Ben's body and soul. Sarah's vision blurred as tears slipped down her cheeks. She clutched the papers tighter, the cold truth burning through her. This was why Mr. James had sabotaged their lives, why he'd gone to such lengths to keep Ben and Emily apart. Not out of love, but fear. Fear that the truth would destroy everything he'd built. Her fingers shook as she snapped pictures of every damning page with her phone, knowing these were the weapons she needed to fight back. A sudden sound in the hallway made her freeze. Heart pounding, she slipped the files into her bag and straightened, wiping her tears away. The game had changed. The truth was now hers. Sarah wasn't just a pawn anymore. She held the key to unraveling the empire of lies and to finally setting things right. The glow of the street lamp spilled through the window, casting long shadows across Sarah's small apartment as she sat alone, phone trembling in her hand. The weight of the damning documents pressed heavily on her mind, but it was the uncertainty of what came next that gnawed at her soul. She stared at Emily's name on the screen, her best friend, the woman whose trust she had shattered, the one she needed more than anyone right now. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, heart pounding so fiercely it threatened to betray her. Finally, with a shaky breath, she typed the message, "I need to see you. There's something you must know." The seconds stretched endlessly as she stared at the sent confirmation, hoping beyond hope that Emily would respond. Memories flooded her, Emily's radiant smile at the altar, the silent hurt in her eyes afterward, the way Sarah had run away without a word. The guilt was a living thing, wrapping around her like chains. But beneath that guilt burned a fierce resolve. She had uncovered the truth. Now she had to share it, to fight for justice, for forgiveness, for the chance to heal the wounds she had helped create. Her phone vibrated suddenly, a reply lighting up the screen. When? Sarah's breath caught. A sliver of hope pierced the darkness. Yet even as she prepared to meet Emily, another urgent truth demanded her attention. Ben. He was lost in the chaos too, desperate for answers, haunted by questions he couldn't yet ask. Sarah knew she had to find him, not just for her sake, but to help him understand the forces that had torn their lives apart. The thought of confronting Ben filled her with equal parts fear and determination. She worried he might reject her, or worse, that the truth would shatter him entirely. But there was no choice. The silence was unbearable. She composed another message, this time to Ben, explaining only enough to secure a meeting. "I have something important to tell you. Please, we need to talk." Her heart ached with the weight of what was to come. The path ahead was fraught with danger and pain, but Sarah steeled herself. This was her chance to face the past, to seek redemption, and maybe, just maybe, to mend what had been broken. With trembling hands, she set her phone aside and closed her eyes, whispering a silent prayer for strength. Sarah stepped nervously through the gates of Ben's mansion, her heart racing with every step. The sprawling compound was quiet, its opulence shadowed by something heavier, loneliness. She hadn't seen Ben in 2 months, not since that disastrous day at the altar. Now she was walking back into his world, carrying the truth he'd been searching for. A butler led her silently to a wide study with floor-to-ceiling windows and soft music humming low in the background. Ben stood by the window, his back to her. He didn't turn right away, but she saw his shoulders tense the moment the door clicked shut. "I've been looking for you," he said finally, his voice low and strained. "Every day. Every lead, every call, nothing. You vanished." Sarah stepped closer but kept her distance. "I didn't know how to face you, or Emily. I was ashamed." Ben finally turned to face her, and the months of hurt were written all over his face. His eyes, once bright and steady, now looked tired. "Why are you here?" "I found something," she said, voice shaking. "Something you need to see." She handed him her phone. As he scrolled through the images, files from Mr. James's locked drawer, letters, medical reports, financial records, his expression slowly crumbled. His jaw clenched. His eyes welled. What is this?" he whispered, nearly choking on the words. "Proof," Sarah said quietly. "Mr. James tried to end your life when you were a child. He poisoned your medication, then built his empire off your family's destruction." Ben dropped into the armchair behind him, burying his face in his hands. The silence that followed was thick, until a raw, guttural sob escaped his throat. "I thought something was wrong with me," he said through broken gasps. "I thought I was weak. All these years." Sarah knelt beside him, not touching, but close. "You weren't weak. You were targeted." Ben looked up, tears streaming down his face, fury and grief fighting in his expression. "He stole everything. My health. My future. And Emily, she thinks I betrayed her." "I know," Sarah whispered. "And I take full responsibility for what I did. But I swear, I came back to fix this, to help you both see the truth." Ben wiped his face, breathing deeply. "Thank you for coming back. I don't know what this means yet, but I know it's not over." "No," Sarah said, standing. "It's only just beginning." But in that room, 2 broken people sat with truth between them, no longer enemies, not yet allies, but finally on the same side. Emily sat in the quiet corner of her Paris apartment, curled on a velvet chair, phone in hand. The city outside was awake, but inside, everything felt still until her screen lit up with a new message. It was from Sarah. "I need to see you," with a series of images. Emily hesitated, her thumb trembling as she opened the first one. Then the second. Then the rest. Medical files. Financial records. Signed authorizations. A name she recognized far too well, James O. Montgomery, her father. Her heart stuttered. Each photo revealed more. Documents detailing how Mr. James had tampered with Ben's medication as a child. Notes from a private doctor. Evidence of hush payments. The trail was undeniable and sickening. Emily's breath caught in her throat. Her phone slid from her hand and hit the floor with a soft thud. She stared into space, her chest heaving. Her father. The man she had defended, trusted, loved. He hadn't just disapproved of Ben. He had tried to destroy him and kept it hidden for years. Tears welled, falling freely. Emily sat frozen, betrayed in a way she couldn't yet process. And in her silence, her world quietly collapsed. Emily's flight touched down before dawn, the soft hum of the plane's engines fading as she prepared to face a past she had desperately tried to escape. The weight of Sarah's message and the damning pictures left her no choice. She had to return. Not just for herself, but for the truth she needed to uncover. Sarah had arranged everything, a secluded resort away from prying eyes, where the 3 of them could meet in privacy. A neutral ground, where emotions could surface without judgment, without whispers. When Emily arrived, the fresh sea breeze brushed against her face, mingling with the storm inside. Ben and Sarah were sitting when Emily entered. She looked at Ben with so much pity but tried to hide her emotions. "What are we going to do now?" Emily asked. "I could get your father arrested for the harm he caused me, but I don't know how to hate you," Ben said. "Me neither," Emily said, looking down. I am so ashamed of myself for not giving you a chance to explain things to me after what happened at the altar. I am truly sorry for what I've done to both of you. Ben is entirely innocent, and I was paid to kiss him. I did it, but I am no different from Mr. James, Sarah said. They all knew what to do next: confront Mr. James about the past and see if he tries to play smart. That would determine their next actions. The grand foyer of the James estate seemed colder than ever as Emily, Ben, and Sarah stepped inside. The marble floors gleamed beneath the crystal chandeliers, but the opulence could not mask the tension thickening the air. From a shadowed corridor, Mr. James emerged, his eyes widening in disbelief. He stopped dead, his usual composed mask cracking. His breath caught as he saw Emily standing there alive, back from her exile. Then he noticed Ben and Sarah beside her. For the first time, a tremor ran through his frame, subtle but undeniable. Emily, his voice wavered, a flicker of something like fear flashing in his eyes. You're back. He took a step forward, then faltered, gripping the edge of a nearby console to steady himself. Ben's gaze was unwavering. We're here to face you. To demand the truth. Mr. James swallowed hard, the weight of years of lies suddenly crashing down. His hands shook faintly as he ran a trembling finger along the polished surface. Forgive me, he whispered hoarsely. I never wanted this to come to light. I did what I thought was necessary to protect the family, to protect you, Emily. Emily's eyes burned with pain and disbelief. Protect me? By poisoning Ben? By tearing us apart? How could you? Sarah stepped closer, voice steady despite the storm inside her. You made us all victims of your greed. And you used me to betray the people I loved. Mr. James sank into a nearby chair, his strength draining. I was desperate. The empire, the reputation. I couldn't risk losing it. I thought I was doing what was best. Ben shook his head slowly, anger and sorrow mingling. You gambled with life. You broke trust. And now, we're here to take back what you tried to steal. For a long moment, the room held its breath. The mighty man who once commanded with an iron will was now visibly shaken, stripped of his armor. I am sorry, Mr. James repeated, voice cracking. Please, forgive me. Emily looked at him, pain softening to resolve. Forgiveness doesn't come easily. Ben nodded firmly. I will make sure you pay. The weight of the confrontation lingered long after the heavy doors of the James estate closed behind them. Outside, the world seemed unchanged, but for Ben, everything had shifted beneath his feet. He stood on the edge of the sprawling estate, eyes fixed on the horizon where sky met land. The truth had finally been laid bare, painful, raw, but freeing. His body ached not just from years of physical suffering but from the burden of betrayal carried silently in his heart. He thought of the future he had once dreamed of a family, children, the life stolen by lies and greed. The doctor's words echoed in his mind: he might never father a child. A cruel sentence written long ago by Mr. James's hand. But now, with the truth in his grasp, Ben felt something he hadn't in years, a quiet peace. I may have lost much, he whispered to the wind. But I've found what matters, the truth. Turning away from the estate, Ben took a deep breath, his step steady despite the storm inside. He was leaving behind not just a man and a mansion, but the weight of a past that nearly broke him. Sarah watched him go, the ache in her chest both sorrow and relief. She, too, had been a prisoner of debt, of fear, of lies. The choices she'd made haunted her still, but the darkness was lifting. She had no illusions about forgiveness, nor did she expect it fully. But like Ben, she was beginning to rebuild. To find strength in truth. Emily remained in the quiet house she had once shared with dreams now faded. She thought often of Ben, of the love they had lost to deceit and pain. Her heart ached not just for herself, but for him. There was nothing she could do to heal what was broken, no way to undo the betrayal they all endured. But in her sorrow, she held on to one hope: that someday, all three might find the peace they deserved.